Welcome to Career Chats. In this episode focused on diversity and inclusion, we hear Irene Afful's inspiring story. As the first black police inspector at Merseyside Police in 2013, she became chair of the Black Police Association and now devotes her working life to equality, diversity and leadership development. Here she discusses the challenges she faced throughout her career and how she went on to become a mentor for others defining their careers.
Irene, you were a trailblazer at Merseyside Police, the first black female police inspector, as I mentioned, and I'm always interested to ask someone in your situation, did it feel like, back at the time, that you were blazing a trail, and was it intentionally so that you were doing it?
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you.
And
I'm
welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you. At the time, no, it didn't feel like I was a trailblazer. Number one, because I didn't know I was the first black female inspector until I was approached by a local historian. And secondly, for me, I was just doing my job and I had a very, very clear career path. I was very ambitious and I was just setting and achieving my goals. So I didn't realise that I was a trailblazer.
Given that, you know, the police force is around the country and maybe Merseyside Police is true of this, there are kind of issues that people face. Why did you join Merseyside Police? Am I right in thinking that Toxteth riots had something to do with it?
They had something to do with it. That wasn't a positive driver for it, though, not. Initially, because, I grew up in Toxteth. I was a young teenager, 13, 14, when the riots happened.
And tell us a bit about what they were about, because not everyone may remember them these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, Toxteth was an area that was predominantly black. And the policing of the area at that time was pretty harsh. There was lots of stories of people being taken into the back of vans and lots of stories of people being beaten up.
And this was July 1981.
It was, yeah.
So you saw the riots happening?
Yes, it was a summer holiday, so I was off school, and we saw the lines of police. We saw the petrol bombs. We saw the rioters, in the streets, some of them masked, and the shouting and the screaming, and it was very scary because we were right in the heart of it. Our estate was right in the heart of it. I joined the local authority, Liverpool City Council, and I started studying law, and I ultimately became a legal assistant. And it was while I was working as a legal assistant in child protection that I came across a couple of CID officers, detectives who worked for the police, who were dealing with the criminal aspect of the cases that I was dealing with. So our paths seemed to cross on several occasions, and we were obviously sharing information to support each other's cases and stuff. And they suggested to me, have you ever thought about joining the police? And I was like, not in a million years. It was just like the furthest thing from my mind. But it was an amazing and varied career. And I had good experiences, but I also had some bad experiences. There was a lot of sexism when I joined the police. There was racism when I joined the police, and I suffered both of those things. The sexism was probably more endemic than the racism.
Really?
Because there were so few females at that time, and the women was kind of, at the time, I think the average career length for a woman back in 1991 when I joined was 7 years, because as soon as they had children, it was very difficult for them to come back to work because there was no flexible working. That didn't exist back in the day. So they had to retire or they had to resign. And as a woman, when you joined the organisation, I was the only woman on my section for 3 years. And I was asked to make the tea, I was asked to do all the menial jobs, and it was like, anything to do with women and children, that's your business, Irene. And, and I found that really frustrating because I was like, well, I'm not even a mum, I haven't even got kids, I don't even like kids. You've got kids, you deal with them. And that's the way I used to sort of
I see, yeah.
Deal with that and sort of put it back on them. I think it was when I started getting promoted, that's when I became kind of a bit of a beacon and a bit of sort of a role model for people, and people were like, you can do it then, maybe I can, sort of thing. And that's when the momentum really started to grow, because I got promoted to inspector within 12 years service. So I was happy doing that role, and then I came in on nights one night, and one of my sergeants came to me and said, I believe you're leaving us. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I've not heard anything. No, I'm happy where I am. And, we've heard you're being pulled to headquarters on some project. And I was like, no, I think you must have got that wrong. I've not heard anything. So anyway, I went into work, did the parade, did the briefing there, went out on patrol, and I got onto my emails, and there was an email saying, yes, as from Monday, this was like Saturday night, as from Monday, you parade on a headquarters and you're now working on this race equality project to embed race equality legislation back in 2001, the race equality scheme. Okay. And I was really, really angry, to be honest, because I was thinking, that's not what I want to do. I want, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I've got a very clear career path in mind. But you can't say no to the chief constable, can you? So on Monday I prayed at headquarters. Well, I didn't pray on Monday, I prayed on Wednesday, because I said I've got 3 rest days after working nights, so you can have me on Wednesday.
Good for you.
Things were getting better. Absolutely, things were getting better, because it wasn't acceptable to tell racist jokes. It wasn't acceptable to sort of treat people in a discriminatory way. It sadly was acceptable when I first joined, but then it became less acceptable. But the sad thing was that a lot of people who held those views, it just became more covert in terms of how they expressed their views and how they dealt with people and how they treated people. And sadly, being in the Black Police Association, being chair of the Black Police Association, obviously I was a focal point for people to come to who were suffering those problems. I was blissfully unaware of all the issues that people were having prior to this. And then I realised that, actually it is quite endemic. So although it was getting better, because it wasn't quite as overt, it was still happening, but in a more covert way.
And was it individuals? The reason why I'm asking, I guess, is that, famously in the aftermath of the Stephen Lawrence case, a different force, the Met, was once described as institutionally racist. Do you think that's the case, that other forces were institutionally racist, or was it few people here and there?
I think all forces are institutionally racist, because it's embedded in the policies and the processes and how they recruit and how they promote and what they actually value within the organisation, how they recognise talent or don't recognise talent. And that's not an individual thing, it's an organisational thing, and it's how the organisation moves and changes that. And it was very slow to move and change it, really. And one of the key things for me was the promotion process, or the selection processes, because the selection and promotion processes, the first flaw for me was having all white interview panels. And it was like, well, where's the diversity on the interview panels? Because we know, and research tells us, because I've researched this as well, that people naturally are attracted to people who look like them and see talent and see skills in people who look like them that may not actually be there, and don't see it in other people who don't look like them, as we call it, class the out group who don't look like them. That's endemic in our makeup. Not to say that we're flawed in that way, that's just how we're built, and everybody's built that way. So if you've got a panel that's monocultural, then how can you bring in diverse people? Because you're gonna look at somebody, for example me as a black woman, and I've got an all white male panel. They're not going to see the talent in me because they don't recognise or affiliate with me. Not only did we have the Black Police Association, but following on from that, there was other support networks that were established. We had a women's support network, we had a disability support network, an LGBT support network, and these all grew out of, or on the back of, if you like, the Black Police Association, and they grew very rapidly and very strongly, and we all started working together and supporting each other. For me, I'm black, yes, I'm also a woman, so I've got the minority on two angles. And we had a part-time flexible workers network as well, okay, because we recognised we were losing so many talented women through childcare issues, because they couldn't maintain the 24/7 job that they were expected to do, because we spend a lot of money training people, hundreds of thousands of pounds training people and all the experience and talent they have, only to lose them after maybe 10 years service because they've gone off to have a family. Now,
on the Career Chats podcast, we always love news you can use, tips that can be kind of constructive, that can help people who may be listening. So you said there are simple things that you can do to kind of build confidence. What would be your top 2 or 3 tips to that effect?
Well, the first thing for me is getting yourself a mentor within your organisation who is one of the leaders, maybe on the chief exec board. These people are so knowledgeable, so talented, and often really, really willing to support people within their organisation in the lower ranks. So just go and ask the question. Go and ask one of your senior bosses who you admire, who you see as a good role model, and just say, will you mentor me? And you'll probably get the affirmative in the answer, because people do want to help, but they're not going to go to you and go, oh, can I come and mentor you? Can I help you? Because that may make you feel like, as an individual, like, oh, well, what's wrong with me? Aren't I talented enough? Aren't I intelligent enough? Just go and ask. I mean, it's so great to have that kind of, like, from grassroots to tops of the organisation communication, because certainly within the police there were it's very hierarchical, and there's lots of layers in between, and this rank's got to speak to this rank, who can speak to that rank, who can speak to that rank, and that's so nonsensical. The top should be able to speak to the grassroots, because you can share information and share knowledge, because when you get to the top of an organisation you often forget what it's like being at the grassroots of an organisation. So it's a two-way learning curve for me. So that's a very, very simple thing. Go and ask your bosses, your senior bosses, I want a mentor and I want you to mentor me, and you'll very, very often get an affirmative answer.
To hear more from our guests, including their extraordinary careers and expert advice on topics such as workplace inclusion, mental well-being and work-life balance, make sure you subscribe to the Career Chats podcast, available on Audioboom, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, to get the episodes as soon as they drop.